World at War Zombies, the most original and debatably the greatest, but not to mention first installment of COD Zombies. I think a lot of people forget just how good World at War is and was for its time. Nobody can tell me that they weren't blown away by the ending of World at War, which may I add is the best in-game reward I've ever come across in any video game. Playing World at War Zombies for the first time was a life-changing experience to young me and countless other kids out there across the world. I know, ratings are just a suggestion. Quick side note, I do believe nostalgia has something to do with why I and many others hold World at War so highly. But I also believe that it was so groundbreaking at the time that nothing in modern releases even holds a flame to being as influential or iconic as the DLC cycle 4 or even the release of World at War. But anyways, today I just want to talk about World at War Zombies on top of sharing some information about the game and showing off gameplay of maps and mods. Maybe I can influence anybody not familiar to something I hold with high regards, or I can provide anyone who's already a fan of the series some entertainment. This is why I think World at War Zombies is underrated. So before this video starts, everything shared and shown in this video is my subjective opinion, so if you think the title of this video is wrong, here's my warning. I think in 2025 so many people forget about World at War customs. The system requirements, as you can see, are little to nothing. You could literally get World at War customs to run on any computer you can get connected to the internet. Now I understand the graphics aren't the best, but hear me out. How much does graphics affect your zombies experience? Even some of the greatest maps we've ever had released look pretty outdated in 2025. I think we can all agree that we're not going back to play any zombies maps for graphic fidelity. So to follow up on that fact, just about any PC can run World at War customs at max settings. There's also an insanely large library of custom maps and mods, ranging from December 4th, 2008 to maps made as late as even after this video is released in 2025. Another side note, the first custom map for World at War was released on December 4th, which is just 23 days after the game launched. At this time, Noct was the only map available to players. I also find it interesting that people started modding and making maps that quickly after the inception of a new game mode, unlike anything seen beforehand in military games. Also, another cool fact is that Zombies wasn't even supposed to be in the game. It was made by a team of developers as a passion project to have fun. Shout out to Jesse Snyder and any other former Treyarch employees that had their hand in the creation of this marvelous game mode. You have all inspired me and countless others to find ways to channel creativity, stress, anxiety, and to help deal with just about anything in that moment that's affecting you in your life. And thanks overall for creating what I would consider the best game franchise to date. Now, back on topic. One of the reasons I think so many people look past World at War in 2025 is also partially to do with exposure or coverage. And what I mean by that is right now the state of COD Zombies could obviously be better online. But since so few people are playing it and creating content with it, it's kind of going away in the public eye. But this is especially true for World at War. I've been playing custom World at War maps for over 10 years. Zombies is my #1 game, no debate. So for someone like me, I don't just forget about it. But to the average person who's been no higher than, let's say, 25, there's very little hype right now to draw in new players or even bring back returning players. Which leads me to my next point. The current selection of Zombies offerings from Treyarch are so far from the original mode that it doesn't even feel like COD Zombies anymore, which is something that World at War has no problem with. Jumping into just about any custom map you will find gives you a sense of atmosphere that's unmatched to any of the modern maps. Another big reason I think World at War is underrated is due to the sheer volume of playable maps and mods. There's at least tens of thousands of playable maps on World at War that range from all sorts of points of interest and locations. Nostalgia also might play a bigger role than I initially thought, because now that I'm thinking about it more, another reason I do enjoy World at War so much is the mix of nostalgic gameplay loop with new areas and weapons sprinkled in to keep my mind busy. One of my favorite things about Zombies that goes for any map, Treyarch or custom, is that you can mindlessly play. And on just about every World at War map, there's usually only a few things to do, with getting weapons and perks and upgrading those weapons being the usual order of business. Another thing that steers people away is the existence of Black Ops 3 mod tools. But I want you to remember, just because Black Ops 3 is a newer game and engine doesn't automatically mean it's all around better. Overall, I think World at War was ahead of its time and is still debatably just as good as Black Ops 3. Obviously, graphically it's not, but for what it lacks in graphics, it makes up for in gameplay. There's way too many custom maps to go through individually, but I've played countless maps that provided me with hours of fun, and I still feel like launching up a new map to play even in 2025. Even though World at War is old, the community has done everything they can to keep the custom maps up to par with newer titles. So there are countless maps you can find with features that didn't even exist on World at War that people have gotten from other games and maps and modded into World at War. Also, side note, many features have been taken from custom maps and introduced to the mainline games. Things like Bible endings were regular in World at War custom maps, and just a few years ago was implemented into Treyarch Zombies. Overall, I think if you've never played World at War Customs, you should definitely experience it, and to your luck, just about any PC you can get your hands on should be able to run it. So go out, find a laptop, install World at War custom maps, and have some fun feeling what it's like to play a map for the first time again. And to make it even better, any of your friends should be able to play with you, since the system requirements only call for a toaster. I've played well over 500 hours of customs on World at War, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. One of my favorite things about Zombies as a whole is the ability of being able to pick it up and put it down whenever. I unknowingly grew a love for roguelike games without even experiencing many. If you don't know what a roguelike game is, let me explain. A roguelike game is a game where death means the end, where every time you play, you start from scratch to see how far you can get the next time with a different strategy or weapons, or even all new maps altogether. Games like Binding of Isaac or Spelunky have procedurally generated maps that change every time you play. But with Zombies, things like maps, weapons, or perks are usually set, so it's up to you to change things about your run to ultimately lead you to a completely different experience every time you play. There's a certain familiarity to any map, but there's always a thought of what else is there or what secrets are being kept from me. And that will change the way I look at or play the game. I personally believe the difficulty for Zombies is perfect. There are maps that are extremely easy and made for mindless play, but there's also extremely difficult maps that will take even the most skilled players hours or even days to find viable strategies. Which leads to another one of the reasons I think World at War is underrated, which is the selection of challenge maps. So if any of you are familiar with Cheese Cube, which is a map released on August 18th, 2013, made by ZK or Zombie Killer, it is a challenge map, the first of its kind to gain popularity, where the challenge is in the design of the map. If you don't progress fast enough, then you will die due to the cheese below you molding and the mold growing until you reach the top. The same map creator also has a version called Cheese Cube Unlimited, where when you reach the top, along with perks, a box, and a pack-a-punch, you also receive a selection of Iron Man suits to wear as a reward for completing the map. Also, if you made it this far and are enjoying the video, leave a like to let me know. There are so many challenge maps on World at War Zombies, and each one is fun in its own way. I can almost promise whatever other franchise you like, there's a good chance that someone's made a map for that TV show, movie, cartoon. Also, for anyone interested in having high FOV, I'm going to put a link to the tool I use for CODs on PC. It's called Call of Duty FOV Changer. It's a launcher that works for World at War, Black Ops 2, MW2, and 3. I like my settings at 120 FOV and 1.000 scale, but I haven't messed with the settings much. I know changing the scale can affect your sensitivity and ADS speed, so if you care about that a lot, I would do some research and find your perfect FOV and sense. Also, the Steam version of this game does not come with controller support, so you will have to enter this command, execute default controller configuration, to enable controller support. And then to change the controller sensitivity, you'll have to type input_view sensitivity 0.6 through input_view sensitivity 4.0. Also, a little side note, the Plutonium version of this game has controller aim assist. If you're interested in that, go search up Plutonium and figure out how to install that version of the game. Warning, I do not promote or encourage piracy, so do that at your own risk. That's the most technologically advanced things you're going to have to do, so after enabling controller support and changing your FOV and setting your sense if you're playing with controller, the next thing to do is find maps to play. One of the reasons many people prefer Black Ops 3 is the ease of the workshop and how easy it is to add mods. But let me tell you, the map makers for World at War have made it easier than ever. When I started playing customs, you had to make a folder and add maps physically. But in 2025, 90% of the maps you will find for World at War will come with an installer that automatically creates the folders you need and puts them where they're supposed to be. So all you have to do is press install. Also, launching mods in World at War is extremely easy. You just select the mods tab and launch the mod you want to play. If there's anything after that you need to do, it will most likely be included on the loading screen for the map. For example, some maps are started by typing a command, but you'll be able to figure that out as you go. I also want to throw in that it's a PC game and computers can be unpredictable. I've had mods work on one PC and not on the next for no obvious reason. So sometimes a map or mod will just not work for whatever reason. If that does happen, just try another map. Most of these maps are less than a couple gigabytes or even a single gigabyte of storage, so you're not sacrificing much to try them. Okay, I don't want to yap too much. I think I got my point across. World at War is an old game that's not very demanding and has what seems like endless content available for you to pick up and play with little to no experience with a PC or mods, by yourself or with up to 4 friends. Some of my best memories ever come from times I spent playing Treyarch maps with friends, so it's nice to be able to relive what to me is the golden era of gaming with new content that's familiar enough to keep me coming back time after time. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment on what videos you'd like to see me make next. I'm NOTXVIYVN, and I'll see you all next time.